"You Fisher, open this gate now." Her voice shattered the morning calm like a gunshot. A perfect white SUV screeched to a stop, and the HOA president stormed out, heels digging into my driveway. She claimed this road was hers, her son watching like a pawn. I stayed calm, wiped my hands on dusty jeans, and smiled. She had no idea her legal rights were fake, and the evidence I'd uncovered would flip everything on its head. In a few hours, the world she thought she controlled was about to collapse. My name's Daniel Harper, and I bought a ranch on the edge of Maple Hollow to escape noise, HOA politics, and people who think someone else's land is their personal playground. My wife, Emma, calls it our bubble, and I call it sanity. The property wasn't glamorous, 200 acres of rolling fields, a few pastures, and a creek winding like a silver ribbon, but it was ours. And for the first time in years, I could breathe without worrying about covenants, neighborhood committees, or passive-aggressive notes pinned to my mailbox. Before we moved in, the prior owner, Mr. Whitman, warned me. The HOA has always run that road through the corner like it's theirs, but it's just a license, not an easement. They think it's permanent because no one's ever challenged them. I nodded, not fully appreciating how prophetic that would become. I wasn't just buying land, I was buying peace, and unknowingly stepping onto a powder keg. Emma is my secret weapon. She's a software analyst for a major tech firm by day, and a forensic strategist by night. She can find anything, analyze anything, and document it in ways that would make a courtroom geek drool. Where I like boots, dirt, and tractors, she likes databases, satellite images, and digital timelines. Together, we're a team, the perfect mix of muscle, brains, and stubborn resolve. Life was simple at first. I mended fences, checked water lines, moved cows. Yes, one named Bessie had a particular talent for mischief and felt a rhythm I hadn't known in years. That is, until Kara Dunn arrived. HOA president of the nearby Willow Creek Estates, self-appointed queen of rules and propriety, and a woman who genuinely believed the world revolved around her community standards. She had the kind of platinum hair and sharp pink blouse that announced she meant business, and a son, Chad, who inherited every ounce of entitlement and zero humility. Kara's reputation preceded her. Lawsuits, fines, inspections, constant meddling. Locals whispered about her dramatic confrontations, but nothing prepared me for the first time she stomped across my driveway, heels crunching in gravel, demanding access to my land. Her voice didn't ask it ordered, and her confidence? Bulletproof. Except for one tiny problem. The easement she cited was non-existent, and I knew it. The county records were clean, the license revocable, and all of it perfectly documented. Yet, she carried herself like she was untouchable, like I was the intruder in her universe. I wasn't intimidated. I never am. Not by entitlement, not by threats, not by screaming. My calm, measured tone, hands dusty from work, became my armor. And Emma? She became the brain behind every move, analyzing social media posts, digging through HOA filings, mapping every possible argument, and prepping our legal artillery. Together, we could counter any escalation, anticipate any move, and stay 2 steps ahead. That first confrontation was a wake-up call. This wasn't going to be a minor tiff or a simple misunderstanding. It was a collision of worlds, the stubborn, hands-on rancher versus a bureaucracy armed with hubris, ambition, and a faux sense of authority. Every subsequent incident, from yelling to drones hovering above the pasture to an ill-fated attempt to install a keypad on my gate, was a reminder of how far she would push. And every time she pushed, Emma and I quietly built our defense, turning evidence into leverage, emails into timelines, and legal documents into shields. It was a chess game, played on dirt, asphalt, and pasture land, and I was just getting started. By the time the first court notices arrived, I understood one immutable truth. Kara Dunn didn't just want a road, she wanted control, and she had no idea that control would cost her everything. The morning after Kara's first confrontation, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. I had my coffee on the porch, overlooking the pasture, when a faint buzzing drew my attention. A drone hovered above, camera pointed straight at me. My stomach sank. I knew who was behind it before I even saw the logo flicker on the side, Willow Creek Estates, and, of course, Kara. Emma appeared at my side, arms crossed. "I see her toys," she said, voice calm but deadly, "and we're going to document every second." The drone followed me as I checked fences, feeding cattle, moving Bessie away from the broken gate section she loved to investigate. I ignored it, but the feeling of being watched gnawed at me. Emma set up cameras across the pasture and driveway, each one wired into a secure server. Every angle, every inch. If Kara wanted to play, we'd have the receipts. It didn't stop there. 2 days later, a white van pulled up while I was repairing the main gate. A young guy in a gray jumpsuit jumped out and went straight for my control panel. "I'm installing a keypad system for Willow Creek Estates HOA," he said like it was the most normal thing in the world. I just stared, then calmly said, "This is private property. You're trespassing." His eyes went wide, glancing at the work order, then back at me. I let the silence stretch. "Pack up. Leave. Now." He stumbled back into the van, apologizing profusely, and peeled out. Emma recorded the license plate, the logo, every detail. That night, our lawyer, Mr. Collins, went ballistic over the phone. "This isn't civil anymore. It's willful trespass and attempted damage. We document everything. You've got a pattern." By midweek, the harassment escalated again. A weekend surveyor drone hovered, peering into the barn and over the house, buzzing like an angry hornet. Emma called it psychological warfare, and she wasn't wrong. I tried ignoring it, but it spooked Bessie and the others, forcing me to run them back into the barn while the drone circled above. Emma didn't just watch, she worked. Social media accounts, HOA posts, satellite maps, property filings, she cross-referenced everything, identifying the chain of command, documenting patterns, and mapping every move. Kara's hubris was enormous, but it left footprints, and Emma had the magnifying glass. A week in, Kara sent Chad, her son, to mediate. I was repairing the fence when they arrived. Chad strutted toward me like he owned the land, puffed chest and all. He shoved me lightly more bravado than force, but enough to test boundaries. I pushed back once, a firm, controlled shove that sent him stumbling into the dirt. Kara shrieked about assault. By luck or fate, Deputy Lyle happened to be on patrol and walked up just then. He saw everything, including the small camera Emma had mounted in a birdhouse. "I think the video tells the story," he said flatly. Kara's argument dissolved instantly. By now, I understood her playbook. Escalate, intimidate, test limits, repeat. It was like watching a woodpecker hammer, a solid oak, persistent, irritating, and ultimately self-defeating. Each attempt gave us more evidence, more leverage. Emails, videos, timestamps, witness statements, they built a mosaic of harassment so precise it would make any court stop and pay attention. The tension wasn't just on the driveway. Word spread through Willow Creek Estates. Residents began whispering about the new guy standing his ground. Some posted on the HOA's private Facebook page, questioning the easement, the rules, the ethics. Kara responded with fury, trying to spin the narrative, but cracks were showing. The drone, the van, the shove, all publicly documented, all undermining her authority. Even our everyday tasks became high stakes. Moving hay bales, repairing gates, checking water troughs, we were always aware of eyes, cameras, and the possibility of intrusion. But Emma's planning and foresight transformed the paranoia into strategy. She divided our defense: legal, technical, and physical measures, each complementing the other. I handled the ranch, machinery, and physical deterrence. She handled the analysis, timing, and documentation. The final escalation came the day a surveyor tried to inspect the main gate. Kara had apparently filed a false claim that she had a right to access the property. We recorded it all, and our lawyers prepped a letter to Apex Security Solutions, warning them that sending anyone to modify my gate was criminal trespass. By the end of that week, the harassment was relentless. Drones buzzing, security crews showing up, social media manipulation, and repeated in-person confrontations. Yet every single attempt only strengthened our case. I watched Kara's confidence waver. In glimpses, her fury remained, but her certainty, her untouchable armor, began to crack. Through it all, Emma and I stayed calm. We let the evidence pile up. Every overstep, every illegal move, every misstep became part of a tapestry that, once completed, would expose her fully. She thought she could bully us into submission, but all she did was build the evidence that would eventually end her reign. By the time the court notices arrived, the pattern was undeniable. Every drone flight, every attempted intrusion, every false claim, it was all documented. The escalation wasn't just chaos, it was a trail, a breadcrumb path leading directly to her undoing. And we had been following it from the start, patiently, strategically, and with a cold, determined precision. Court day felt heavy, the kind of quiet that presses against your chest. Emma and I arrived early, documents in hand, nerves humming beneath the surface. Kara Dunn was already there, sharp navy suit, platinum hair perfectly in place, smirk like she owned the courthouse. Behind her, Chad slouched in an oversized suit, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. The judge entered a tall man with a tired face but eyes sharp as scalpels. No theatrics, no tolerance for nonsense. He glanced over the filings, then at Kara's lawyer, who launched into a polished tirade. "Your Honor, Miss Dunn is protecting a community road, threatened by an unreasonable new resident. Mr. Harper has refused to cooperate, and his actions have disrupted our neighborhood." I watched Emma's hand find mine, firm and steadying. I nodded, voice calm in my head, heart ready. Our lawyer, Mr. Collins, stood slowly. He didn't exaggerate or dramatize. He didn't plead. He presented evidence. "The road in question," he said, voice precise, "is a revocable license, not a permanent easement. County records confirm it. Furthermore, we have a documented pattern of harassment, threats, trespass, attempted property modification, and drone surveillance. Each incident has been captured, time-stamped, and recorded." He played the first video. Kara screaming at me to open the gate. The judge's face was unreadable. Next, the Apex security van arriving without permission. Then, drone footage buzzing over the pasture. Finally, the moment Chad shoved me, captured perfectly by Emma's birdhouse camera. Kara's hysteria was on display, undeniable. The courtroom was silent, every person leaning in. The evidence was undeniable, clear, organized, and damning. Kara's arguments crumbled like dry leaves. Even her lawyer faltered, struggling to rebut video, emails, and official records. The judge leaned back, voice calm but absolute. "Miss Dunn, this evidence demonstrates harassment and unlawful attempts to assert control over private property. A preliminary injunction is granted. Mr. Harper has the right to deny access to his driveway. You and any agents of Willow Creek Estates HOA shall refrain from trespassing, harassment, or surveillance. Violation will be treated as contempt." I exhaled slowly, heart still hammering. Emma's hand squeezed mine. Victory, yes, but measured. Kara's face went pale, fury suppressed beneath the surface, realizing she'd been outmaneuvered. We left the courthouse with legal authority in hand. But the battle wasn't over. Kara had one last trick. A newly filed permanent easement, supposedly signed decades ago by the previous owner. It was well crafted, notarized, or so it appeared. My stomach sank as I held it, the weight of uncertainty pressing down. Emma, ever meticulous, went to work immediately. Scanning the document, comparing notarized stamps, cross-referencing records, she spotted the tiniest anomalies, the font, the year, the seal itself. Within hours, she confirmed it a forgery. The notary had never signed it, and the filing number matched a property in another county entirely. By the next morning, our lawyer had an investigator on the notary, depositions from the county clerk, and an airtight case proving fraud. Kara's desperate, obsessive need to control had led her to commit a felony, and we had proof. With the forged easement exposed, the high noon showdown was set. Emma coordinated the legal and technical logistics. I prepped the ranch and machinery, and Deputy Lyle agreed to be present, not to authorize, but to observe for safety. At noon, the excavator rumbled onto the driveway. Steel ballards lined up behind it, and Emma and I stood on the porch, watching the culmination of weeks of strategy, evidence gathering, and patience. Kara arrived, white SUV screeching, fury on display. She stomped, shouted, waved papers like a sword, but the judge's injunction and the forged easement's exposure left her powerless. With a nod to Rick, the excavator operator, the machine tore into the driveway, ripping asphalt, carving a trench. Steel ballards were set, concrete poured, and a massive red "No Trespassing" sign hung squarely between them. The crowd of HOA residents watched, aghast, as Kara realized her control had ended. Deputy Lyle strolled over, tipped his hat, and said casually, "Looks like the road is closed." Kara had no words, only a mix of fury, disbelief, and fear. The gate was closed, the legal line drawn, and our victory complete. The afternoon sun stretched across the ranch, casting long shadows over the freshly installed steel ballards, 6 immovable posts, a trench carved in black asphalt, and the massive red "No trespassing" sign marked the line, clear and unyielding. Emma and I stood side by side on the porch, watching as the HOA residents from Willow Creek Estates gathered on the other side, mouths agape, expressions shifting from confusion to frustration to outright panic. Their shortcut road, once taken for granted, was gone, and with it, the illusion of control Kara Dunn had built over 25 years. Word spread fast. Within the hour, the first disaster struck on the neglected back road, Old Mill Trace. A moving truck got stuck in mud within 100 yards, blocking a line of luxury SUVs behind it. Horns blared, drivers yelled, and tempers flared. One overconfident resident tried to cut across a neighbor's lawn with a boat trailer, demolishing a prized rose pergola. From our porch, Emma monitored the HOA's private social media feed, and it was glorious chaos. Posts, pictures, and furious comments erupted, all blaming Kara and the HOA board for their own mismanagement. That evening, a friend sent us a running text feed from the emergency HOA meeting. Residents shouted, demanded explanations, and accused their leadership of negligence. Kara tried to defend herself, but the evidence of the blocked driveway, the trench, and the steel ballards spoke louder than her words ever could. The motion for a vote of no confidence passed unanimously. By the following week, Kara was voted out, stripped of her title and influence in a humiliating public spectacle. Her supporters scrambled to distance themselves, suddenly aware of the fragile house of cards they'd built around her authority. Back at the ranch, the silence was profound, the kind that hums in your ears and makes every blade of grass seem alive. The legal wheels turned steadily. The forged easement was exposed. The district attorney opened an investigation, and the injunction stood firm. Kara's attorney vanished, replaced by a public defender. Her house went on the market, her reputation in ruins, and the HOA was forced to maintain the neglected road properly, finally bringing Old Mill Trace up to code. Emma and I settled into a new rhythm. Bessie grazed calmly, the creek shimmered in the late afternoon sun, and the pasture felt alive again. The ranch had returned to its original purpose: peace, work, and the satisfaction of knowing our boundaries were respected. Deputy Lyle even rolled by for coffee, not complaints. "You two are the talk of the county," he said, grinning from the porch rail. We didn't need a victory lap, just relief. That night, we opened a bottle of wine, sat on the porch, and let the distant sounds of the HOA meltdown drift to us like a story we'd watched unfold from the best seat in the house. Trucks stuck in mud, broken pergolas, frustrated neighbors, the consequences of arrogance were clear. Kara had built a kingdom on noise, intimidation, and lies, and it had collapsed spectacularly because she underestimated the law, our resolve, and the power of evidence. I ran my hand along a ballard, cold and solid under my palm. It wasn't just steel, it was a symbol, a reminder that boundaries, once set with care and defended relentlessly, cannot be ignored. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder, and we watched the pasture breathe in the twilight. The gate was closed, the trench dug, the line drawn, and for the first time in months, the ranch was ours again. We hadn't sought revenge, we sought peace. But Kara's obsession had delivered consequences without our interference. It was a lesson in persistence, patience, and the quiet power of preparation. Laws, evidence, and stubborn determination tools, as effective as any post-hole digger or wrench, had restored order. As night settled, a calf called for its mother and received an answer, the rhythm of life returning. I glanced at Emma, my partner, my anchor, and smiled. The world was quiet again, and the lesson was clear. Some people only understand boundaries when they're forged in steel, cement, and undeniable truth. We had done more than win a court case or defend a driveway. We had defended our right to live unmolested on our own land, and the pasture, the fences, the red sign, and the 6 immovable ballards, they would stand long after the chaos had faded, proof that some lines are never meant to be crossed.